We have the wonderful team behind us. So we have Mary Ann Hainsworth, who is a support staff member. We have Sally McManus, who's early childhood teacher, and Louise Green, who is a principal. So what we're going to be doing through the session is there's three main parts. Each one of the team will take a different part. So the first part will be drawing the ideas out from the conference that we've had so far. The second part will be looking at education for the future. Where do we think it's going to go? And then the third one is, okay, so what does that mean? How do we get there? So the first session that we're going to be looking at, as I say, is drawing the ideas so far. So what you're looking at is what you've heard in the previous days, and we've had some terrific people. You've had the campaign ones, the union panels, Hui sessions, Pacifica, Nen, Welby, not Pasi, no, that's crossed that out. And Melanie too. You know, there's just been so many people. What we're looking for is for you to talk about those. One of the things that stood out for me was, it actually really had a chord. Joseph was terrific. I just found him a stunning young man to talk to us. And I did enjoy the talk about whispers. You know, you see the whispers through his life. And I was reflecting on it myself and thought, well, the whispers were there for me because at the age of 9 at Ongonga Primary School in Central Hawke's Bay, I staged my first industrial action because I felt that the duties at the end of the day were not fairly being given out to kids. Some kids got better ones than others. I then staged a walkout in fourth form from a confined area where we were supposed to eat our lunch. Learnt the hard way about communication then because I walked out and I was the only one that did it. But you can see the writing was on the wall. And I think a lot of our children are sending us those signals, the signals for the future, who they might be. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Mary Ann Hainsworth, who's going to take you into the next stage, that first stage we're going to do about drawing out these ideas. Mary Ann?
Hi. Kia ora, Mary Ann Hainsworth. I've been a support staff now for 14 years. I've loved every minute of it, but I'm just telling you, people, read your emails properly or you too will be up here. Right. So going over what Mark had said, thinking everything, and I know it's all bursting out of your head, which is what we need now, but we don't need it just bursting out of your head. We need you to think, pair and share. So thinking from the last day's sessions, what's really inspired you, what has challenged you. Think about it. Don't keep thinking though. Then pair up with someone, talk to another person about your reflections, identify the similarities and differences, what it means for us, for the children, and identify the most important reflections to share. When you're sharing, please have a recorder to note down under us and children. Okay, you want to start? And think of 3 or 4 factors to consider for short-term work on next year, and 3 or 4 factors to consider for the longer-term vision that we'll need to work on after next year.
We're going to keep the movement going here. So we're going to move into looking at the second stage, which is looking at the ideas for the longer-term future. The longer-term future. And in a way, this is probably only the second time anyone's tried to do this in New Zealand education like this. It is a stunning time. I do remember when people talked about this around about 30 years ago, about what children need to know for the future. And I do remember what we were writing down in meetings like this. And I think they were absolutely spot on. So I hope this morning you all got up really early to load your cassette tapes into your computer devices so you could actually function today. And I do hope that you all really managed to work your way through all the faxes that you needed to receive and send. And I think the big learning that we've had is the one thing that will be consistent with education is the children, not the devices. And the other thing that will be consistent will be the people working with them. But they might be doing it differently, because it's quite different. Those of you who are older than me can remember 30 years ago, we have a very different workforce. Very different. So I'm going to get Sally now to come up and take you through that next stage. What is the potential of the future? What are the things that we need to think through? And beware, by the way, of airline experts coming in and telling you it's coding this, digital that. Beware. Anyway, that's my little hobby horse. Sally.
Thank you, Mark. Kia ora koutou, ko Sally Willa Takuingoa. I'm a first-time speaker at National Conference. And I agree with Marianne, read your emails properly, folks. We have got in education at the moment a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really shape the future of where we're heading. And we need to think really carefully about this. It's going to benefit our children, it's going to benefit our society, and we have to really be proactive about it. So the question that we're going to be looking at today is, what do we want for children who are entering early childhood education now to know, to feel, and to be able to do by the time they complete their education? It's a really big question. So when I go back to kindergarten at the end of the term break, little Marcus will be starting with me. It will be his first time in a formal education setting. And his family will have hopes and aspirations for him, and we have hopes and aspirations for him too. After I've had the pleasure of having him with me at my kindergarten, he's going to go on to a school or a kura, and his parents will still have hopes and aspirations for him, and his teachers and his support staff, and everybody at that school will have hopes and aspirations for him as well. So we have to really think about what we want for our children. This is about the blue sky picture. This is not about what's not working now. We have to move away from the stuff that's not working and the band-aids that we need to fix it. This is about our vision for what we actually want to see. So we kind of have to put all the other stuff over here for a minute and leave it and come to, but what do we want? We're really good at saying what we don't want, and we're really creative about some solutions about how we can create the change that we want, but what do we actually want? So at your tables, and this is a really big discussion, and you're only going to have 10 or 15 minutes to have this little piece of the conversation. So you might want to even break your tables into two so that everyone has a really good chance to have a say about this. But have a think about what kind of skills and knowledge and dispositions you'd like children to have. What do you hope will be different in our communities? How will our treaty partnership be reflected in the kōrero that you're having? And what does everyone at your table agree on, and what do they not agree on? Because not everyone at your table is going to have the same vision as you, but it's really important that you get all those ideas down on a piece of paper. Does that sound all right? The picture that you've got in front of you, though, isn't just going to happen. We're not just going to move from where we are now to this amazing vision that we've got for education just because we want to be there. So there's some things that we're going to have to do, and that's what we need to talk about next. So when you look at that vision that you've got in front of you about what you really want children to be able to achieve by the time they've finished their education, what do you need now to help you enact that vision? What are you going to need to help you make that vision a reality? So if you have a think about, what might your employment look like? What kind of support or professional learning and development do you need? What kind of resourcing do you need to be able to achieve the vision that you've just talked about at the tables? And it's really important to think about what changes that we need to make, but also what needs to stay the same, because you're all doing amazing things in education every single day, and you don't need to throw all that away, you need to hold on to it. So it's really important that you keep sight of that, as well as the stuff that you're going to need. So you've got another 15 minutes. I'm sorry it's a really short time frame, but if you can think about that, and then we'll call you back.
Okay, so we've had lots of kōrero, lots of time to get our thinking out, and to get our ideas out and have those conversations. So we've talked about what we've heard and learnt over the last 2 days, and we've thought about our children and what we want for them and what we need for us as educators. So our next part of our discussion is to use the next 10 to 12 minutes to look at what we've done in that last part of the discussion and turn our thinking into a coherent, do you hear that word? Coherent vision. So what does it mean, all right? Coherent, so bringing all those ideas together into what it is that is critical to ensure is reflected in a future system. So we've had lots and lots and lots of thinking, we're bringing it together, and so we want you now to prioritise the big ideas for children and for us, NZI Te Reo members, working in education that absolutely need to be captured in our vision. So that's what we're going to do over the next 10 minutes. We do need to record these on paper. These will be collected and used. So please do a good job of this so that we can read. The big priorities, the big ideas for children and us as NZI members working in education that need to be captured in our vision. 10 minutes. Off you go.